I knew something was wrong the moment the room went silent, and every eye turned toward me, not because I had spoken, but because my wife had. One clink of her glass, one practiced smile, and suddenly my entire life was unraveling under candlelight. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was the man being publicly unmade, one announcement at a time. I can still hear the clink of crystal glasses, the low hum of jazz from the hired quartet, the soft murmur of 100 polite conversations, then, above it all, the sound of my wife's voice shattering my life. But before the announcement, before the whispers and the stares, I was still a husband celebrating 12 years of marriage. I was still Nathan Caldwell, husband, father, provider. I hadn't yet become the man people would pity, gossip about, or secretly envy. The restaurant glowed in golden light. Every table was draped in ivory linen, every centerpiece an arrangement of red roses that Claire had insisted upon. She loved being the center of attention, and tonight she had it. Family, friends, even a few colleagues gathered to toast us. Or rather, to toast her. I could already sense it, though I tried to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. I was used to being invisible in my own marriage. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, hovered at my elbow like a perfume you can't escape. She wore pearls so bright they seemed to glow in the candlelight. Her smile was tight, rehearsed, and sharp enough to cut glass. "You've held on longer than I expected," she whispered as she leaned in to kiss my cheek. Her lips were cold. But then again, Claire always did know how to make a man endure. I forced a smile, though heat rose in my chest. Evelyn had never liked me. To her, I wasn't wealthy enough, wasn't charming enough, wasn't enough for her only daughter. "Good evening to you too, Evelyn," I said. She chuckled as if I'd confirmed her point. "Don't take offense. 12 years is impressive, considering." She didn't finish the thought. She didn't have to. Her glance lingered on the younger couples in the room, polished and glowing, as if to remind me that I was already past my prime. Claire appeared beside me then, radiant in a black satin dress that clung to her hips. She kissed my cheek lightly, leaving a trace of wine and lipstick on my skin. When her eyes met mine, there was something there I couldn't name. Not warmth, not affection, something sharper, like anticipation before a storm. "Nathan," she said, her hand sliding briefly across my arm. A spark shot through me despite myself. My body still reacted to her, even when my heart knew better. That was part of her power. "Everything looks perfect, don't you think?" I nodded. "It does." We ate, we drank, we played our parts. Toasts were made. Emma, our daughter, sent a video from her college dorm, smiling into the camera and telling us she loved us. My chest ached watching it, because for a moment, I believed in the family we'd built. I wanted to believe. Then came dessert. A tray of petit fours, champagne poured again. Claire stood, glass in hand, and tapped it with her fork. The room hushed. She looked exquisite, her smile lighting the room, her skin glowing in the candlelight. I should have known something was coming. "Everyone," she began, her voice carrying with practiced grace. "Tonight we celebrate 12 wonderful years of marriage. Nathan has been my partner, my rock, and I am grateful for every day we've shared." Polite applause. I smiled, though unease prickled the back of my neck. "But," she continued, and that single word froze me. "But as life changes, so do our needs. Tonight I want to share something important, something Nathan and I have been discussing." We hadn't been discussing anything. I believe in honesty. I believe in freedom. And I believe that love can expand rather than shrink. So, beginning tonight, Nathan and I will be opening our marriage. The words detonated like a bomb. Silence. Then gasps, whispers rippling through the room. I felt the blood drain from my face. Evelyn's smirk widened like she had orchestrated the entire performance. Claire raised her glass. "To new adventures." I couldn't move. My chest was heavy, my throat dry. 100 eyes pinned me to my chair, waiting for my response, waiting for me to nod, to smile, to confirm the performance. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. I set my glass down, the sound sharp as a gunshot against the table. Without a word, I pushed my chair back and stood. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of speculation and judgment. I walked past Evelyn's triumphant gaze, past Claire's frozen smile, past the roses that now smelled sickly sweet. My legs carried me through the restaurant, out into the cool night air. Only then did I breathe. The city buzzed around me, neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement. I loosened my tie, trying to shake off the humiliation, the sting of betrayal. For 12 years I had given her everything, my loyalty, my time, my body. And she had chosen to humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. The image of her in that dress, curves framed by silk, lips shining with wine, made my stomach twist. She had been mine, once. She had looked at me with desire, once. But tonight she had belonged to the room, to herself, to anyone but me. I kept walking until the noise of the party faded behind me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, calls, messages, no doubt, but I ignored them. My mind was blank, yet burning. I didn't know what came next. I only knew one thing. Everything had changed. Forever. I didn't go home. I circled the city like a satellite that had slipped its orbit, watching windows glow and couples drift through doorways. Midnight bled into morning. When exhaustion finally outweighed pride, I parked 2 blocks from the house and reclined the driver's seat. Streetlights blinked like interrogation. I closed my eyes and let anger cool into something harder. Sleep came in shards. Each time I woke I saw Claire at the head of that room, glass raised, mouth curved. My body remembered the best of her, the scent behind her ear, the way she stretched after sex and fell into my arm. The memory made my gut twist with want and contempt. Dawn rinsed the windshield in gray. By 7 I had a decision. I called Daniel, friend, lawyer, the man who had talked me out of worse mistakes. He answered on the second ring. "I'm done," I said. "Divorce. Today." "Come by at 9, he said. "Tell me everything then." The screen filled with messages the moment I hung up. Claire's name sat at the top like a flare. I opened them in order. First a selfie from the party, her laughing, dress cutting a line over her hips. "You'll thank me someday." Then, "Don't be dramatic, Nathan." Then a manifesto about honesty and freedom and how love should expand. I want to explore without the suffocation of monogamy. After that, the blade. "If you walk, everyone will know who the small man really is." Then the pivot to pleading. "Please come home. We can talk. I love you. I love me too." The last one. A photo of our bed, her side unmade. I muted the thread. Coffee at a diner near Daniel's office tasted like burnt hope. In the window I looked like a man between lives. At 9 I sat across from him while he read what his assistant had typed. His office wore money quietly, thick rug, framed degrees, a pen that might have bought a used car. He slid papers to me. "This starts it," he said. "No public statements. Don't answer her. Forward everything." I signed. The pen felt heavy for plastic. "Do you want the house?" he asked. "I want a door I can close." When I left, the sun forced itself through cloud as if believing in new beginnings. I drove to the house anyway. Practicality beats poetry. Claire's car was gone. Evelyn's beige sedan squatted by the curb. I told myself I'd be quick. Clothes, toiletries, a box of records Emma and I loved. The foyer held last night's roses, already drooping. In the bedroom I dragged a suitcase from the closet and started folding. Shirts. Jeans. The watch Claire gave me on our 10th. I held it too long, remembering the hotel window, her breath warm on my neck. Once we made each other feel rare. "Going somewhere?" Evelyn asked, arriving the way a draft arrives. Uninvited, chilling. "I'm picking up my things." She stepped into the doorway, pearls bright as her judgment. A real man would have stayed and discussed Claire's needs. "You mean been a prop?" I said. "Smile while she auctions the vows." "You never gave her what she deserved." Her gaze slid to the bed. "Even there you were efficient." He climbed my neck. "Move, Evelyn." "She didn't. Claire sacrificed her youth for you. She deserves freedom and support. Half the house, half your savings, monthly help. Without her, what are you? A man in a car with a suitcase." "It's amazing how correct that sounds," I said and brushed past. Her hand shot out, nails precise. You'll regret this. Probably. But it will be mine. I finished packing. In the kitchen, a note in Claire's script waited. Come home and be reasonable. I left it. On the fridge, a photo Emma took at the beach. Claire in a sundress, me behind her, my hand at her waist. I let the past guard the appliance and walked out. On the porch, Evelyn trailed me, spitting polished insults. You'll crawl back. They always do. Not this one, I said, loading the trunk. The lid shut with a thud that sounded like a period. I rented a short-term place with furniture printed from a catalog. A couch that wanted posture, a bed that didn't know my shape. I set the suitcase by the door and stood in the quiet. It wasn't peace, it was the room where peace might arrive. The messages kept arriving. Some were soft. I miss you. Remember the morning we didn't leave the bed? As if nostalgia could bargain. My body reacted because bodies are stupid, but desire is not a contract. I turned off the phone. I texted Emma, I love you. Okay. We'll talk when you want. Her typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. She was old enough to understand and young enough to hope. Afternoon dragged. I walked to a noodle shop and ate alone. On the way back, a woman in a biker jacket passed me, smiling with casual interest. For a second my chest opened. I remembered I had a mouth not only for answering accusations, hands that still ached to hold. The thought embarrassed me, then steadied me. Back in the apartment, I opened my laptop and wrote a single line. I am not a man to be performed with. The sentence looked small but true. I read it again and felt my jaw unclench. Evening settled. I showered a day of old perfume from my skin. Steam fogged the mirror. I stood there bare and breathing, letting the water beat habit out of my shoulders. I was lonely. I was free. Both facts could live in the same body. The phone pulsed. Claire's preview. We can make rules. I just want to feel alive. I pictured her in that dress, the silk clinging where I used to place my hand. Want rose and receded. I put the phone face down. Night took the windows. The bed was too crisp, the sheets too cool, but they were mine. I lay in the dark and listened to the refrigerator hum. In the quiet I could hear my heartbeat choose a new rhythm. I didn't pray. I didn't bargain. I didn't plan revenge. I made one promise I could keep. Tomorrow I would wake to a life that did not require witnesses. For the first time in a long time, I slept alone on purpose. The apartment walls felt too clean, too empty, as if they were listening for something to fill them. Days passed with silence, except for the hum of traffic and the occasional clatter of pipes in the walls. I told myself I preferred it that way. No Evelyn circling like a vulture, no Claire parading her theatrics, but the truth was, silence has a weight. It presses until you feel like you'll suffocate under your own thoughts. Claire wasted no time. Within a week, her social media bloomed like a garden of freedom. Selfies with new friends, men with gym-polished bodies, women who looked like they belonged to late-night adventures. Captions dripping with innuendo, finally alive, love is meant to be shared, don't cage the fire. And always her smile, radiant, daring, like a woman who had slashed off her chains and wanted the world to applaud. I didn't applaud. I watched. Each post hit me like a stone I refused to dodge. It wasn't jealousy, not exactly. It was humiliation wearing a mask of anger. Everyone could see. Everyone could comment. And they did. Old neighbors, distant relatives, colleagues. Some cheered her on, others gossiped. My name floated in the undertow. Nathan, the man left behind. Evelyn made sure of it. I learned from an old friend in the neighborhood that she had been busy planting stories. Over coffee with the other wives, she described me as cold, unfeeling, controlling. Claire only wanted to breathe, she'd whisper, her pearls clinking against porcelain. But Nathan strangled her with his rules. Lies travel faster when dressed as sympathy. Emma called me one night, her voice breaking through the static of distance. Dad, she said, Mom says you wouldn't let her be herself. She says you didn't love her anymore. I closed my eyes. My daughter, caught in the middle of a war she never asked for. Emma, I said softly, your mother and I, we see things differently. What she's telling you isn't the whole story. Then what is? She asked, her voice trembling. The truth jammed in my throat. How could I tell her mother humiliated me, mocked our vows, broadcast her infidelity as empowerment? How could I poison her image of the woman who had raised her? Listen to me, I said finally, choosing the least destructive path. Don't get involved. This isn't yours to carry. Just know I love you, and that will never change. She sniffled. I believe you. I just don't know who to believe anymore. Her words cut deeper than Evelyn's gossip ever could. After the call, bitterness settled into my chest like ash. I poured a glass of bourbon, the ice clinking in the quiet apartment. The amber liquid burned, but it didn't burn enough to erase the vision of Emma crying on the phone. Claire's campaign of freedom turned into a spectacle. One post showed her on the lap of a man I didn't recognize, her head thrown back in laughter. Another had her dancing on a rooftop, champagne spilling from the bottle in her hand. Beneath it, a comment from Evelyn, "So proud of you for choosing joy." But that word mocked me. Was this what joy looked like? My wife spreading herself thin across strangers' arms while our daughter sat alone in her dorm, confused and ashamed? I started running at night. Pounding the pavement until my lungs screamed gave me something besides anger to feel. Sweat was honest. The rhythm of my feet on the concrete drowned out the echo of Claire's laughter. Still, the whispers found me. At work, colleagues avoided my eyes too carefully, like they already knew. A neighbor bumped into me at the grocery store, hesitated, then asked, "How are you holding up?" with that half smile that carries pity. I gritted my teeth and pretended not to understand. But the worst were the nights. The bed too big, the sheets too clean, the memory of Claire's body beside mine impossible to silence. Desire and anger twisted together in the dark. My body remembered her warmth, the curve of her thigh against me, the way she arched when I touched her. Sometimes I hated myself for wanting her still. One doesn't vanish just because trust does. I would close my eyes and hear her voice, whispering my name in that breathy way she used to during sex, and then I'd hear her laughter at the party, announcing my humiliation. Two Claires warred inside my head, the woman who once burned for me, and the woman who set fire to us. The more she flaunted her new life, the more I understood something bitter. This wasn't about freedom. It was about spectacle. About making me the villain in her story. Evelyn fed her lines, the audience clapped, and I was cast as the shadow at the edge of the stage. But shadows have weight. And I wasn't planning on disappearing. By the end of that third week, as I scrolled past another photo of Claire tangled with some stranger in a nightclub, I knew bitterness had settled into me for good. This wasn't grief anymore, it was war. And war changes a man. I set my glass down, stared at my reflection in the dark window, and whispered to myself, "She wants me broken. But I won't break. Not for her. Not for Evelyn. Never again." The lies would keep spreading, the whispers growing louder. But I had decided one thing. When the reckoning came, and it would, I wouldn't be the one left standing in silence. By the fourth week, I stopped pretending this was anything but a battle. Claire's selfies with her new friends weren't about joy or freedom. They were weapons, sharpened for public display. And Evelyn? She wielded those weapons like a general. Wherever I went, I could feel the air shift when people recognized me. Their smiles had pity sewn into them, their small talk clung to safe topics, as though my marriage had become contagious. Then came the summons. Not a literal one, not yet, but a phone call that set the stage. Claire's voice was honey-dipped in arsenic. "Nathan, we need to discuss terms." Terms? As if our life together had been a business deal waiting for dissolution. She chose a cafe in the old part of town. The kind with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. When I walked in, she was already seated, her hair glossed and curled, her dress low enough to remind me she still knew how to make a room bend. Two men at the counter stole glances at her. She smiled, basking in it. "Sit," she said, waving like I was late to a meeting. Evelyn sat beside her, pearls gleaming, eyes sharp as ever. Of course she did. I lowered myself into the chair across from them. "This should be between us, Claire." "Evelyn is my family," she said smoothly. "She's here to support me." "To direct you," I muttered. Claire ignored that. She leaned forward, breasts pressing against the fabric of her dress in a way that might once have undone me. I want what's fair. What's fair? I asked. The house, she said, as if checking off a list. Half of your savings. And monthly support. I gave you 12 years of my youth, Nathan. I deserve to be taken care of. I laughed low and sharp. You want me to fund your adventures? Your open marriage experiment? Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't flinch. Evelyn cut in, her voice dripping venom. Don't be childish. Claire built that home. She built you. Without her, you'd still be some average man clocking hours with nothing to show for it. She gave you a life. She gave me humiliation, I shot back. At our anniversary, in front of everyone we knew. Claire's lips twitched, the faintest sign of discomfort. But Evelyn was relentless. If you refuse, Nathan, this will drag out. A long, ugly legal battle. And the world will see you for what you are, cold, controlling, incapable of passion. That's how judges rule, you know. Sympathy always falls to the woman. I stared at her, then at Claire. My wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, was beautiful, poised, and utterly hollow. There was no remorse in her eyes, no memory of the love we once shared. Only hunger. No, I said simply. Claire blinked. What do you mean, no? I mean, I leaned back, I won't bankroll your new lifestyle. The house gets sold. We split what's fair. Savings will divide. But support? You wanted freedom. You don't get freedom on my dime. Her jaw tightened. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said. But I'll regret it alone in peace. Not while paying for champagne in your rooftop selfies. Evelyn hissed, actually hissed, as if the serpent in her had finally shown its scales. You arrogant bastard. You'll crawl back when you see what loneliness feels like. I stood, tossing a few bills on the table for the untouched coffee. I already know what loneliness feels like. I learned it while married to your daughter. Claire's eyes flashed, but she said nothing. For the first time, she looked less like a queen on her throne and more like a woman who realized the game wasn't going as planned. Outside, the air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of roasted beans and city grime. My pulse hammered in my ears, but there was clarity in it. They wanted war, and war had rules. That night I told Daniel everything. He listened, calm as ever, jotting notes with his pen that probably cost more than my suit. She'll push for more, he said. They always do when they feel control slipping. But you've drawn a line. That matters. I'm not letting them bleed me dry, I said. He nodded. Then prepare yourself. This will be public. She'll use your daughter, your reputation, anything she can reach. I rubbed my temples, picturing Emma's tearful face. I don't want her dragged into this. Daniel's gaze was steady. You can't stop Claire. But you can stand your ground. That's what matters now. I left his office feeling both heavier and lighter. The storm was gathering, yes, but at least I wasn't pretending it was rain anymore. Back at my apartment, I poured another bourbon and stared out the window. Somewhere across the city, Claire was probably draped across another stranger's arm, Evelyn whispering strategy in her ear. They thought I would bend. They thought shame would break me. But as the night deepened, so did my resolve. This wasn't just about divorce. It wasn't about money or houses or who wore the better smile in public. It was about dignity. About refusing to let them define me as the villain in their story. If they wanted terms of war, they had them. And I wasn't planning to lose. Courtrooms smell of varnish and dust, as if they're designed to remind you of age and authority. The morning of our first hearing, I walked through the double doors with my shoulders squared, though inside I felt like my bones were rattling loose. Daniel walked beside me, calm, polished, briefcase in hand. He had the confidence of a man who'd won battles like this before. I needed that. Claire was already there. She sat at the petitioner's table, draped in a cream blouse that caught the light in just the right way. Her hair cascaded in careful waves, her makeup flawless but understated, calculated to project grace. To the casual eye, she looked like the picture of a woman wronged, fragile but dignified. Evelyn sat behind her, pearls sharp against her throat, eyes like twin daggers locked on me. I took my seat at the respondents' table. For a moment, Claire's eyes met mine. No trace of the woman I had married lived there, only a performance. The judge entered, and the room rose. When we sat again, the proceedings began. Claire's attorney, a slick man with an expensive watch, opened with a speech about abandonment. Mrs. Caldwell, he said, voice honeyed, sought freedom only after years of neglect. She did not want to destroy her marriage, but her husband's coldness left her with no choice. What woman wouldn't want to breathe after suffocating under his control? The words sliced through me, deliberate and rehearsed. I kept my face still, though my chest burned. Daniel leaned over and whispered, "Let him dig the hole." Then Claire took the stand. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. I tried everything. I tried to talk to Nathan, but he wouldn't listen. He shut me out. I only wanted to feel alive again. I thought maybe if we opened things, we could rediscover what we lost. But instead, he walked out on me, on us, in front of everyone. Evelyn dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief from the gallery. Theatrics. Pure theatrics. When it was Daniel's turn, his calmness cut like ice. He stood and spoke with measured precision. Let's be clear. This isn't about freedom. Mrs. Caldwell chose their anniversary party, a public celebration of their vows, to announce her intentions. Not in private, not in therapy, not even in conversation with her husband. She humiliated Mr. Caldwell in front of family and friends. That is not the action of a woman desperate to save her marriage, it is the action of someone eager to destroy it. The judge's brow furrowed. The gallery whispered. I sat taller. Daniel cross-examined Claire with surgical patience. Mrs. Caldwell, were you aware of how many people attended your anniversary party? Yes, she said, voice delicate. And you chose that setting to reveal your desire for an open marriage? I wanted honesty. In front of your parents, your friends, your daughter's professors? She faltered. Evelyn shifted in her seat. Daniel didn't press the pause, he let it hang. Silence can be more powerful than accusation. When Evelyn was called, she launched into her rehearsed tirade. Nathan was always cold, always controlling. My poor daughter suffered in silence for years. Daniel cut her off. Mrs. Hart, did you ever live with the Caldwells? Her lips pursed. No. So your testimony is based on what your daughter told you, not on personal observation? Yes, but... Thank you. No further questions. The judge scribbled notes, expression unreadable. Hours dragged. Legal arguments blurred together. By the time closing remarks ended, I was drained. My life had been dissected under fluorescent lights, our marriage reduced to exhibits and affidavits. When the judge finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of finality. The court orders the marital home sold, with proceeds divided equally. The savings accounts shall also be split. Temporary spousal support will be awarded to Mrs. Caldwell for a limited period, pending further evaluation. This is the fair resolution given the circumstances. Claire's lawyer nodded. Claire's lips pressed tight, victory mixed with bitterness. Evelyn's glare burned through me, as if the ruling were a personal betrayal. I exhaled slowly. Half the house. Half the savings. Temporary support. It stung, but it wasn't ruin. And more importantly, it wasn't everything they demanded. When the gavel fell, I stood. The courtroom emptied in waves. Claire didn't look at me, not directly. She gathered her purse, her movements careful, graceful, like an actress leaving the stage after a performance. Evelyn brushed past me, muttering, "This isn't over." Maybe it wasn't. But as I stepped out into the sunlit afternoon, a strange calm settled in me. The worst was done. The humiliation had been public, yes, but so had the truth. Daniel clapped my shoulder. "You're not free yet, but you're close." I nodded. The air felt different, lighter, even if my chest was still heavy. I had lost pieces of myself in that courtroom, but I had walked out standing. Defeated, maybe, but also free. The first call came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was finally starting to believe I could breathe again. My apartment smelled faintly of takeout noodles and bourbon, the television murmured some forgettable show in the background, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something like normal. Then my phone lit up with a number I knew by heart but hadn't seen in days. I should have ignored it. I should have let the silence stay unbroken. But curiosity is a cruel companion. I answered. Her voice was thin, trembling. Nathan, I need help. The sound of weakness in her tone startled me. This was not the confident woman draped over strangers in rooftop photos. This was not the queen of spectacle. This was someone cracked. What do you want, Claire? I asked flatly. There was a pause, then a shuddering breath. I'm sick. I need money for treatment. Please. I leaned back on the couch, letting her words soak in. Treatment for what? She hesitated. Then the truth slid out, sharp and shameful. An infection. I have an STD. My jaw tightened. I closed my eyes, fighting the disgust crawling up my throat. So your new adventures finally caught up with you. It's not like that, she snapped, but the fragility in her voice betrayed her. I didn't know. He didn't tell me, Nathan, I'm scared. I almost laughed. Almost. You wanted freedom, Claire. This is freedom. Congratulations. The line went silent. I could hear her breathing, ragged, uneven. You're heartless, she whispered. I gave you 12 years, and this is how you treat me? You humiliated me in front of everyone we know. You lied about me. You're still lying. And now you want me to pay for the fallout of your choices? No. Her breathing hitched, then the line went dead. For a while, I just sat there, staring at the black screen of my phone. A part of me, the part that remembered her warmth in the dark, her body curved against mine, her laughter when she was still mine, ached to reach out. But the rest of me, the scarred part, knew better. The second call came the next day, but it wasn't Claire. It was Evelyn. When I opened the door that evening, she was standing there, clutching Claire by the arm. Claire looked pale, her eyes red-rimmed. Evelyn, however, burned with fury. You bastard, she hissed before I could speak. How dare you abandon her when she's sick? What kind of man does that? I stepped aside only enough to make it clear they weren't coming in. The kind of man who's done being used. Claire's eyes shimmered with something that looked like shame. Or maybe it was just exhaustion. She whispered, Nathan, please. But Evelyn cut her off, shoving her forward like a weapon. You will pay for this. One way or another. I slammed the door. The sound echoed in the apartment, my pulse pounding in my ears. Leaning against the wood, I tried to steady my breath. My chest felt both heavy and hollow. I had dreamed of Claire breaking once, of her mask slipping, of the arrogance crumbling, but standing there, pale and desperate, she didn't look like a villain. She looked like someone drowning. And yet, sympathy was dangerous. Sympathy was a hook she'd use to pull me back into the undertow. That night, I didn't sleep. Images spun in my head, Claire laughing in another man's arms, Claire weeping in my doorway, Evelyn's venomous eyes. My heart wavered between rage and pity until both felt the same. By morning, one truth was clear. The cracks in Claire's perfect facade had begun to show. She had built her new life on lies and champagne, and now it was rotting from the inside. And I would not be the one to save her. The storm broke one quiet afternoon. I was at my desk, trying to lose myself in spreadsheets and numbers, things that didn't lie, things that didn't twist into performances. Then my phone buzzed. Emma's name lit the screen. I answered quickly. Hey, sweetheart. Her voice was tight, trembling. Mom says she's pregnant. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. What? She told me yesterday. She says it might be yours. That's why she's been so emotional. She wants you to come back and take responsibility. Emma's breath hitched, and I could hear her trying not to cry. Is it true? Could it be? The bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. It was harsh, cruel even, but I couldn't help it. No, not a chance. How can you be so sure? I leaned back, rubbing my eyes. My throat tightened, but not with fear, with something colder. Because I had a vasectomy, Emma. Years ago. After you were born. Silence stretched on the other end. I imagined my daughter's eyes widening, her whole world shifting again. You never told Mom? She never asked, I said flatly. She didn't want more kids, remember? Said one was enough, that she wanted to keep her body, her freedom. I agreed. Quietly made sure it would never be an issue. Emma exhaled sharply. Then she's lying. Yes, I said. She's lying. The anger in my chest was a fire now, burning hotter with every second. Listen to me, Emma. None of this is your fault. You stay out of it, do you hear me? Don't let her drag you into her games. Her voice cracked. I just don't understand why she keeps doing this. Neither did I. Or maybe I did and I just hated the answer. Desperation. Claire was losing ground. The open marriage fantasy had curdled. The STD scare had stripped away her glamour, and now she was reaching for the oldest weapon in the book, motherhood. Even if it meant faking it. That evening, the inevitable knock came. I opened the door to find Claire herself, eyes red but makeup still perfect, dress clinging like armor. She pushed past me without asking, pacing the living room. We need to talk. No, you need to talk, I said, crossing my arms. She spun on me, tears glittering. I'm pregnant, Nathan. It has to be yours. We were together a few months ago. I cut her off with a cold smile. No, it doesn't have to be mine. Because it's impossible. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she looked uncertain. What do you mean? I let the truth drop like a blade. I had a vasectomy. Years ago. After Emma. You never knew because you never cared enough to ask. Her face drained of color. The mask cracked, if only for a second. Then she lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You're lying. You just don't want to take responsibility. I shook her off. I'm not lying. And you know it. You wanted freedom, Claire. Now you've got it. Enjoy figuring out who the father really is. Her lips trembled. For once, Evelyn wasn't there to script her lines. She stood in my living room, exposed and unraveling. Please, Nathan, she whispered. Don't do this to me. Don't abandon me. I stared at her, 1,000 memories pressing in. The nights we tangled together, the laughter we used to share, the way she once looked at me like I was the only man alive. And then I remembered the restaurant, the clinking glass, her triumphant smile as she declared our marriage open. You abandoned me a long time ago, I said. Her tears finally spilled. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. But I felt nothing. Not sympathy, not desire. Only a hollow ache where love used to live. When she left, the apartment felt heavier, like the air itself remembered her chaos. But beneath the weight, I felt clarity. She had played her last card. And it had failed. Claire wanted freedom. Now she had it in all its consequences. The walls closed in on me from every direction, though I'd carved out a small life of solitude. Days were quiet, work runs through the city, nights with books or bourbon, but Claire and Evelyn never allowed silence to last. They were determined to drag me back into the storm, even if it meant tearing apart everything in their path. It started with Evelyn. She cornered me in a grocery store aisle, right between the apples and the oranges. I was reaching for a bag when I felt her perfume, a cloud of powder and bitterness, before I saw her. You can't keep running from your family, she said, voice sharp but low enough to avoid attention. I straightened, turning slowly. My family? You mean Claire? You abandoned her, Evelyn hissed. You've left her sick, pregnant, desperate? I cut her off with a cold laugh. Pregnant? We both know that's impossible. And as for sick, maybe she should have thought about that before chasing every thrill the city had to offer. Her eyes narrowed to slits. You're a coward. A small man. A real husband wouldn't turn his back. I leaned closer, my voice low enough that only she could hear. A real mother wouldn't have taught her daughter how to destroy herself. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly, lips curling. You'll regret this. She'll never stop. Neither will I. I walked away, leaving her among the fruit, her threats echoing in my ears. That evening, my phone lit up again, Emma. Her voice was caught between loyalty and despair. Mom keeps calling me, saying she's broke, that you won't help her. She cries, then she yells. I don't know what to believe anymore. I pressed my fingers against my temple, fighting the urge to shout. Emma, listen to me. I love you. But you cannot let yourself become the rope in this tug-of-war. Your mother is making choices, bad ones, and she wants someone to blame. Don't let it be you. But she says she's all alone, Emma whispered. She's not alone, I said firmly. She has Evelyn. And she has the men she chose. I won't be guilt-tripped back into her chaos. Neither should you. Emma went quiet, then finally murmured, I just want my family back. My chest tightened. So do I, sweetheart. But wanting doesn't make it possible. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, the bourbon untouched at my side. Emma's pain was the worst of it, far worse than Evelyn's venom or Claire's lies. My daughter was caught in the undertow, and I was powerless to shield her completely. The next day, Claire herself showed up at my apartment. She looked gaunt, makeup smeared, eyes red from either tears or exhaustion. Her dress clung to her like a last desperate attempt at a lure, but the glamour had worn thin. Nathan, she whispered when I opened the door, I can't do this anymore. I'm sick, I'm broke. I need you. Her voice had a tremor I hadn't heard before, something raw, almost real. For a fleeting moment, my heart stuttered. The memory of her body, the taste of her kiss, the heat we once shared, those things flickered like ghosts between us. But ghosts don't rebuild lives. You need me now? I asked, my voice cold. Where was this when you clinked that glass at the restaurant? Where was this when you posted selfies with men who weren't your husband? When you dragged Emma into your lies? Tears spilled down her cheeks. She reached for me, but I stepped back. I made mistakes, she said, voice cracking. But I still love you. Can't you see that? I shook my head slowly. No. What I see is a woman who wanted freedom and now can't live with it. I won't carry the weight you dropped on me. Her sobs filled the hallway, but I closed the door. My chest ached, but I didn't waver. For hours afterward, I sat staring at the door, listening to the silence she left behind. My body remembered her, wanted her even, but my mind was steel. I would not go back. Not now. Not ever. The pressure from all sides was suffocating. Evelyn's venom, Claire's desperation, Emma's heartbreak, but I had learned one truth. Sympathy was the weapon they wanted to use against me. And I wasn't about to let it pierce my armor. No matter how many times they knocked, no matter how many lies they spun, I would not open the door again. The summons came like a bullet in the mail slot, plain envelope, heavy with consequence. Claire had filed for child support. Despite my vasectomy, despite her crumbling lies, she was still clawing for one more weapon to use against me. Daniel read the papers in silence, lips pressed into a thin line. Then he looked up at me, calm but firm. She's claiming you're the father. The court will order a DNA test. I laughed bitterly. She's desperate enough to gamble on biology. Which means we don't fight the test, Daniel said. We embrace it. And we bring the medical proof of your vasectomy. The more transparent we are, the more the judge will see through her games. The hearing came sooner than I expected. By then, I'd grown numb to Claire's theatrics, but walking into that courtroom again still felt like stepping into a furnace. Claire sat at the petitioner's table, a pale imitation of her former self. The weight loss, the tired eyes, her freedom had chewed her up and spit her out. Yet she still clung to her performance. Evelyn sat directly behind her, pearl necklace gleaming, jaw clenched with venom. The judge began with routine formalities, then turned to the issue at hand. Claire's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client is pregnant and maintains that Mr. Caldwell is the father. She seeks appropriate child support. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with disgust. The sheer audacity. Daniel rose with his usual composure. Your Honor, my client had a vasectomy shortly after his daughter Emma was born. We have medical documentation, signed by his physician, confirming the procedure. Furthermore, Mr. Caldwell is willing to submit to any DNA testing the court requires. We are confident the results will exclude him. The judge's brow lifted. Claire shifted in her seat. For the first time, her mask cracked. When the court-ordered DNA results came back, they were definitive, 0% probability of paternity. The judge read them aloud, his tone flat but final. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn's lips thinned into a hard line, her fury nearly vibrating across the room. Claire broke. "No!" she cried, standing so quickly her chair toppled behind her. "This can't be right. The test is wrong." The judge banged his gavel. "Order in the court." Claire's sobs spilled into the echoing room. "He has to be the father. He has to." But the truth was written in black and white. The lies had finally collapsed. Daniel remained still, his calm presence grounding me. The judge looked at Claire, his tone sharp now. "Mrs. Caldwell, this court does not tolerate false claims or wasted resources. You have made a serious accusation, and it has been disproven. Consider this a warning. Further misconduct will carry consequences." Claire crumbled into her chair, face buried in her hands. Evelyn rubbed her shoulder, whispering something sharp in her ear, but even her poison couldn't undo the damage. The truth had spoken louder than either of them. When the gavel fell, the room shifted. People filed out, whispers swirling. Some looked at me with sympathy, others with curiosity. I walked out with my head high, my chest burning not with humiliation this time, but with vindication. Outside, the sun cut across the courthouse steps. I inhaled deeply, the air tasting sharper, cleaner. For the first time since that anniversary party, I felt the weight lifting. Claire had tried everything: gossip, humiliation, sex flaunted in public, lies of sickness, claims of pregnancy. But the truth had torn each mask away. And now she was exposed. Evelyn glared at me as she guided her daughter down the steps. Her eyes burned with hatred, promising more battles. But I no longer feared her. The war wasn't over, not completely. But the tide had turned. And for once, it was in my favor. The courthouse steps felt like the edge of a battlefield. Claire clung to Evelyn's arm, mascara streaking her cheeks, her body trembling under the weight of her unraveling lies. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. Then I remembered every humiliation, every whisper Evelyn had planted, every night I lay awake while she posted pictures with strangers. Pity died quickly. They didn't let me leave in peace. Evelyn's voice sliced through the crowd as they descended after me. "You think you've won?" she spat, her pearls rattling against her chest as if even they were exhausted. "You destroyed this family." I stopped on the last step and turned. Claire's eyes were swollen, glassy, her lips trembling with words she couldn't quite form. Evelyn, though, stood straight, her venom still sharp. "No," I said, my voice low but carrying. "You destroyed yourselves. Claire with her lies. You with your poison. All I did was step away before you dragged me under with you." Claire's sob broke the air. "Nathan, please, you can't just leave us like this." "I can't." Her words collapsed into muffled cries. I shook my head. "You already left me, Claire. You just wanted me to stick around as the audience." Evelyn tightened her grip on her daughter and hissed, "You'll die alone. Mark my words." "Better alone than chained to madness," I replied. I walked away, their curses chasing me down the street like shadows. In the weeks that followed, silence returned to my life, though not the comfortable kind. It was heavy, filled with the echoes of everything that had been lost. At work, people eyed me with tentative sympathy. At the grocery store, neighbors whispered but avoided my gaze. My marriage had become a story, a cautionary tale, a rumor to chew on over wine. Emma called often. She had stopped defending her mother, though I could hear the ache in her voice every time she mentioned her. "She keeps trying to explain," she said once, quietly. "But it never sounds real anymore. It just sounds broken." I wanted to protect her from the wreckage, but I knew she was old enough to see it for herself. "You don't know her excuses, Emma," I told her. "You just owe yourself the truth. Don't let her lies become your burden." She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "I think I finally understand." That night, I poured myself a drink and stared out the window at the city lights. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like prey. I felt free. Scarred, yes, but free. News trickled in through whispers. Evelyn had sold her house. Claire disappeared with her not long after the court hearings. Some said they moved to another city, others claimed Claire gave birth quietly, vanishing before anyone could ask questions. The gossip didn't surprise me anymore. I had stopped looking for answers in other people's mouths. One afternoon, Daniel called. "It looks like Claire's done. No new filings, no appeals. You're free." The words should have felt like victory. Instead, they felt like a eulogy. Because I wasn't celebrating a win, I was standing over the ashes of 12 years of marriage, 12 years of love twisted into humiliation and lies. Liberation was never clean. That evening, I walked along the river. The air was crisp, the water dark, reflecting the city's restless lights. Couples passed me, hands entwined, laughter mingling with the wind. Once, that had been me and Claire. Before the lies, before Evelyn's whispers, before freedom became a weapon. I stopped by the railing, staring at the black water below. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel proud. But I felt something I hadn't in a long time: light. The chains were gone. The noise was gone. And though scars lingered, I was still here. Free. At last.